Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Charles Derrick.
This is J Rob.
And this is Bringing the Noise. Man, J-Rob, I want to tell you something. We've had a lot of great entertainers so far. I mean, some people that's done some major things in this business. Some people who've had legendary careers, and all the way down to guys that are just starting to really bring the noise around this region. And it's been fun. I know me and you really relating to a lot of these people and almost able to tell some of the same stories kind of thing, but just feeling that from them. So it's been a lot of fun, man. What are you thinking so far?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's been a great thing. Every conversation we've had with some of these folks is, again, it's been relatable, regardless of some of the heights that some of those guys have been to. Some of these people starting out, it's been a trip. But I will say it's really interesting for tonight's guest to get a little bit of a different perspective on the entertainment game and let some people in on what actually goes on with this scene too.
We talked about this. We said we want to see people also on this show, because when we're talking about entertainment, you're not just talking about the entertainers. You're talking about the people who are the front of house guy, sound guy. You're talking about talent buyers. Well, today we have two in one. This guy is a major talent buyer, and he's also a front of house sound guy. And he's been doing it for 20 plus years. He's originally from Pittsburgh. That's not Pittsburgh, Mississippi, for you guys from around here, okay? That's the real big Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This guy, he's came back down. He's came to Mississippi for a job offer with a major casino down here. I believe it was that would have been, was that last year? Was it last year, Cameron?
3 years now.
Has it been that long?
It's been 3 years.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years been in Mississippi, and has already done, I know of 2 casinos, right? So there was, let's see, he did the one in Tunica. That was the Hollywood Casino. He was a talent buyer up there. He's also now doing the Ameristar Casino in Vicksburg, talent buyer and front of house guy. And he's the owner at Cameron Entertainment. He's also done the Meadows Racetrack and Casino. That was in Washington, Pennsylvania. And he was also a front of house engineer for the AMPD group. Like I said, the guy's got 20 plus years doing sound, and is, ran the board for artists including Eve Six, Queensryche, Post Malone, Snoop Dogg, Ja Rule, Pitbull, and the late great Dick Dale. So his first national act was how do you say it, Cameron?
You're not a punk guy at all.
I'm not a punk guy.
My first national act I ever got thrown behind a board for was NoFX. And NoFX is pretty much legends when it comes to punk music.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Gotcha. Well, we've got Cameron Sczerba on the show today, y'all.
Oh, you left out one. He's a pretty damn good guitar player too.
And he's a guitar player. You daggum right.
I'm not a good guitar player. I play guitar because it's quiet enough to play in my apartment. Drum kits wouldn't go over very well. I've I've been a drummer. I got my first snare drum when I was like 3. So, and started taking lessons at about 3.5, 4. So
Okay.
I consider myself a drummer of 40 years or so.
Awesome.
Maybe you could get one of those rolling kits, electronic rolling kits, and roll with it up there with the rubber pads.
I wanted to do it. I've played them, and I looked at the new one. I don't know if you guys seen that new one. It's like actual drums.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. But they're like what, like $8,000 or something to start.
Yeah.
So it'd just be smarter for me to use that $8,000 as the down payment on a house. And then I could buy, a $150 drum kit and beat on it. And it's just cool enough for me,
Right. That's the thing with some of those electric ones. I screwed around a little bit with drums over the years too, but with the other drummers, they just don't have the same feel hitting that pad as hitting a drum head.
They don't. I mean, we could elaborate that on that for a second too, as far as the live show. It's cool, I guess, in a smaller bar, but you just never get that feel of a awesome acoustic drum kit in a nice big room. It's totally different.
It is. It really is.
Well, and you could also use acoustic drums and get some great triggers.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you wanted that sound.
Yeah. I actually, I have all the samples from my Tama kit. So I've always wanted to play around with them, and I've never done that. Just add it to the list of things I got on a tablet somewhere that I plan to do someday.
We all have those lists, and it's ever growing.
Nonstop. That's actually pretty cool. He's going to be completely different from anybody we ever had in the way the whole setup he's got there.
Oh, it's a good scene.
I had to dig something. I've been meaning actually to put these out here. My sister sent me the porch one. I think I was a Christmas present or something. And then my one roadie that worked for me for a number of years sent me the Heinz Field sign.
Nice.
It's awesome.
It was like, he was just random conversation. He's like, well, how far is your house from like Heinz Field, man? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like sitting out here drinking. So it's like, Google that. I'm like, it says I'm 975 miles from Heinz Field. And like a week later, this showed up on the doorstep.
How slick.
Nice.
So you're from Pittsburgh, right?
Born and raised.
Cool.
Yeah, only lived a couple other places over the years. I spent a little bit of time in Virginia, working. Right after high school, I was working for a chain of pizza shops. I started working down there and managing a couple stores down there while they were opening new stores. So I was there for a couple months, and I went to Ohio State for one semester before I moved back to Pittsburgh and continued school at Duquesne in downtown Pittsburgh.
Now, there's no way on God's green earth I could work for a pizza shop.
No.
Why is that?
He is infatuated with the product.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we had pizza tonight, man. We had Papa John's, that new stuffed crust.
Pizza is so bad.
It'd be like a drug addict trying to run a drug dealer operation. It wouldn't work.
Hey, I need to come up there and eat I've seen you talk about the pizza here sucking. I need to go up there and try the real stuff.
Yeah, that, or we'll just have to get you over to my house one day when I cook.
I love it, dude. I love some pizza, no doubt.
That's what I made. A nice New York and a Detroit last time I made pizza. I made 2 pizzas last time. We crushed it.
Well, what's the big 2, right? Is New York or Chicago? Which one's
Chicago,
your deal?
Yeah, the Detroit has really gotten popular recently.
What's their bag? What are they doing different from the others?
Okay, the Chicago is a round deep dish with tons and tons of toppings that make it thick. Detroit is not a Sicilian. Now there's a Sicilian pizza. Sicilian pizza, the crust is made ahead of time, and it's a 2 to 3 rise crust. It's pre-cooked, put aside, and then made usually the next day or so. Whereas the Detroit is a single rise deep dish thick pizza where the dough is kind of light, flaky, and you put all the toppings to the very edge, so where the cheese hits the edge and then the cheese caramelizes and gives you a nice crunch on the edge. Natchez Brewing makes an actually awesome Detroit style pizza.
I'd be all about that deep dish.
Yeah, it's a meal, because usually there's, I get it. I'll get pepperoni and sausage, and there'll be, 2 pounds of sausage in a pizza, 1.5 pounds of pepperoni, and 4 or 5 pounds of cheese in it. When you get it, it really weighs, one pizza will weigh like 10 pounds.
That's insane.
Dude, cheese makes all the difference in the world. I mean, if you slack on the cheese, ain't no good. Well, the thing of it is, in the entertainment business, and when you bring in the noise, you would not be able to do what we're doing without people like Cameron. And that's not blowing shit up your ass. That's the truth. I mean, you got to have that guy up front that makes, the talent on stage can be, the greatest thing since biscuits and gravy. But if they don't have the guy making the technical side of things, making them sound like they're supposed to, it just ain't going to happen. And if you don't have a talent buyer that buys the right entertainment for a room, it's not good. The room's not going to work either.
Yeah, it's a tough catch-22 as far as those two kind of going hand in hand together. The sound and the talent and the sound. It's difficult. I would say the talent portion of it is much more difficult. You could learn the physics of, audio engineering and be able to hit, many different genres of music. But booking a room with many different genres of music, it gets even tougher. It's one thing, a snare drum is a snare drum. You kind of have the idea of, this is a country band, this is a metal band, and you kind of have that sound and the feel. And plus, with the band coming in, you kind of get their natural sound, and you kind of work off their natural sound. Whereas the room, it could change month to month, week to week, year to year. Something else new opens up down the street. Your audience changes a little bit. We have COVID, and then the room's closed for 13 months. So it kind of gives you it kind of gave me a clean slate to what we're doing here now, because I really came in different than I think I would have had we stayed open. I think open, it would have been more gradual of what I had trying to implement as far as change, as far as the talent I was buying, to whereas now it was just kind of like, okay, everything's closed, clean slate, we're opening up. Here goes, to me, this is the plan to open. And if you have to make changes down the road, you're going to make changes down the road. But to me, it was like kind of like hit it out of the park to begin with. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I did really become a little more local centric on the other acts that I'm booking in my room right now. We had a guy booking from out of town. We had a guy from Louisiana booking everything in Vicksburg. And, he was never in the room. He didn't get to see what the room was doing. And, he only got sparingly numbers. This many people showed up, bar sales were this. And it was just kind of like, hey, keep running with these acts. This act's good. People seem to like that act. Whereas there was real no data put behind it. Whereas I've really gone in, and we were going into more data analytics for the room prior to the COVID shutdown. Sometimes, if you have 100 people in a room and they go out and they gamble, well, it's, it's seemingly better than if you have 200 people in the room and they just walk right out to the door and leave.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's tough. I mean, that's tough to think about as a band too. You're like, oh, it's not just, we hope to bring some people in. It's like, man, I hope my friends gamble. So it does make the casino industry, a different animal than a bar.
There's a lot of different variables there that you're having to consider. And, I didn't realize that about the other guy booking that room before, but, and, not to say that that was necessarily a horrible thing, but I personally would think it's a lot better situation for, well, your situation, you being there, having your finger on the pulse of what's actually going on and the kind of people that's coming in to kind of make those calls. All right, this band's going to work more for the kind of folks that's coming in, or, being able to pull the trigger on a risk on taking somebody else that you think is going to work because you're there seeing it,
100%. I mean, and that was Tunica also. Tunica's dark right now.
Yeah.
I do hope to resume duties at Hollywood and First Jackpot as their buyer when they do reopen. But they were using a company out of Jersey.
Really?
So, yeah. So if you're using a talent buying agency out of New Jersey for casinos in Tunica, Mississippi, those guys never seen the light of day. And
No.
nor did they really, I'm sure they didn't put any data analytics into anything whatsoever. It was, here's the budget, all right, here's the bands. And,
Do something with
once in a while you get a call from a manager that, that guy got drunk or, just don't book that band again, whatever the reason may be. And they cross them off and then just add somebody else to the stack and rotate the stack. And, somebody's not available, you just go to the next one. You have no idea, the identity of people. I really like to, get down, meet the people.
Yeah.
I think we can develop better relationships, with, venues and artists, spending time, get to know each other.
Absolutely. I mean, again, that may work for some folks, but regardless of what cog in this business you're doing, whether it's being in a band or being a buyer or a sound guy or whatever position it is you're playing in the thing, most of the time, the more passionate you are about what it is you're doing, the more successful you are. So it's hard for me to think that somebody on the other side of the country is that passionate about what's going on in, a casino down in old rural Mississippi, Like,
yeah. Yeah. That's a tough one. And that's how I actually really ended up with those properties, was the fact that, they were paying this company a nice chunk of change.
sure.
I said, I'm 190 miles away and I have the experience doing this. Like, why don't we have me doing it? It took a while, and, corporate, the job didn't, when I got this promotion, the job didn't exist within the company. We had, our techs, you either were a tech, you were an entertainment manager, or, you were a lighting tech, an audio tech, or just a basic stagehand. That is what they use throughout the country. For I think we have 42 properties now. I don't know that all of them have entertainment, but, so basically what they did is they kind of combined these positions. And, you have to be more diverse, obviously, because now it's not just you're an entertainment manager. They want you to be the entertainment manager, which is managing the day-to-day operations of entertainment. They also want you to be the buyer, negotiating all these contracts. I buy our national talent now, which in the past there was a guy at corporate that used to, he was over us. He was our director.
Mhm.
And they had eliminated that position and moved that position to the locals. So as entertainment managers, we're negotiating our own deals with these national touring acts now, to whereas we had a guy doing that for every property in the past.
Yeah.
And when they combined my position with other casinos, that's when, now that we've reopened for COVID, after post COVID, and are starting to have entertainment at other casinos, they've made most of the entertainment management positions like regional, whereas you buy for a couple casinos, and you're the lead engineer at your home casino.
I see.
Well, and we've talked about that in almost every podcast about how COVID has made everybody kind of rethink the way they, like you said, if COVID wouldn't have happened, how, you may have done things a little different. I think we all would have. I think this past year definitely changed the game in all of our minds and kind of made us reevaluate our, lives and our careers and everything else.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's a rough one. I think, I got laid off. Everybody in my company, as far as entertainment, got laid off. The guys that did fare well were the guys that were able to do like the small acoustic stuff, so those guys were kind of out there, and, they were able, a lot of those guys I know that are kind of journeymen, they play in the big band Friday and Saturday, but supplement their income by, 3 or 4 acoustic type shows a week. Those guys were able to keep rolling. And I don't know, I ask you guys, you put this great band together, through COVID. And so I'm hoping some people listen to this and will comment on it. But the biggest part of COVID that really made me sad was we had all these bands, and you know what? They're great musicians and everything like that. And, I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them, except for you had all this time and nobody practiced.
Yeah.
Like, you just put a new band together and, your material's fresh and new and you don't have anything to worry about. But don't you think like it would have been like really cool for these bands to say, hey, let's drop, set some kind of goal, drop 20 or 30 new songs into sets. Because a lot of people do play the same tired set list,
Oh yeah.
You might rotate one in or out, and I run
You're
into
hearing
the
the same band all the time, just about.
Well, it's just not the same band. I run into the problem, whereas sometimes bands are kind of sharing members back and forth, especially in this market, because it's a smaller market. You have less talent to pull from to build your band. So what I've noticed a lot is there's a handful of bands that are all playing the same set. So that makes it even tougher to kind of, pick out like who's the best if you're sharing guys all the time back and forth. I know this guy's consistent because he plays in 3 bands that show up. But, when they're all playing the same set, aren't you just really just hiring the same band?
Pretty much.
I guess there's
not anything big distinctive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, that was as bad as we've said this before, as bad as COVID was for so many folks. I mean, if you want to look at positives from any situation, it was a blessing for us. I mean, because it gave us time to really hone in exactly what we wanted to do, get it tight, get it ready. That way, when it comes out, it's going to be where it needs to be.
And especially when you're building more than just the music, you're building an actual show, choreographed show.
Sure.
and dancing and talking, the dialogue and the, talking on CB radios and all this kind of stuff. I mean, stuff that just people who are like, hey, what songs we're going to play and let's learn those songs is not a lot of that stuff they're not going to do, it's a different ball game. It's a lot different ball game building a show versus just some killer songs. I mean, but you're right. I mean, there's a lot of bands, there's a lot of players in this region. And I said this before in one of the other podcasts, that I think there is a strong music community here. I really do. Here recently, I've been seeing it a lot. But you're right in the aspect of, it's like, hey, what songs, do I need to do tonight with you guys or whatever? And it's, no problem. Whereas you need something that kind of separates you and makes you a special thing, you know, separates you from the pack, makes you a special, what makes you a special ticket, or what makes you just the other band, the band at the bar,
Yeah, I mean, think about it when the casino circuit really started. Now, this is before my time. I've only been in casinos for 4 years now, but I frequent them often and donate my money to them. At least the ones I don't work at. but think about it, when the casino circuit really started, things were really booming, especially down here in Mississippi. So I don't know how much opportunity you guys had, to get into that scene. But when it first started, I mean, there was Vegas, which is, forever. And then Atlantic City really came up. And then after Atlantic City, there was Mississippi.
Yeah.
And that was before,
okay,
that was before all these regional casinos came into play, where, you drive down an interstate highway and, nowadays every 200 miles, there's going to be a city that's large enough to have a casino, or somewhere that's in between two cities that, government said, hey, we can build a casino. So these all, when Mississippi started, that didn't exist. When Ameristar opened, we're in year 26 at Ameristar now. When Ameristar opened, they had two stages. They had one house band downstairs it was called the Cabaret, I believe, and now it's our sports book. But they had a band down there that played 7 nights a week.
wow.
And it was the same band for 7 nights. And, talking about changing sets up, these guys would actually come down during the day when the casino's slow or dead. You come down on a Monday afternoon, and they would rehearse a few new tunes to throw in, because they were playing 7-night stints. And then they were back in 4 weeks again after going to a couple other casinos. These guys would play, a couple months at a time, take a week off, and then just rotate back in. So they had the opportunity of, gigging like crazy. Everything's fresh, everything's sharp. You're playing the tunes all the time, so they're in your mind. But during the day, it's giving you the opportunity to either be in a room that's, not really being used much, or a room that's being closed. So it really gave these guys a lot of opportunity to actually do some practice. And they did. The guys that I had talked to that were, the casino 7-day guys years ago, they're like, yeah, dude, we used to jam a list of, 400, 500 songs, when we were playing 7 nights a week, and try not to play the whole, the same song for a whole week.
Oh, wow.
I guess when you're playing that much, and, that much into professional, devote your life to it, music, you can do that. But yeah, again, 26 years in Maristar, they had a band 7 days a week downstairs. Now upstairs, they did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Friday and Saturday, they had 2 bands. So the weekly band would play early on Friday or Saturday, and they would play like 6 to 10. And then another band would come on at 11 o'clock and play from 11 o'clock to 4 in the morning. So that tells you how much entertainment was going on.
No doubt.
Aside, other than them having like a national act, once a month or whenever they did it, that's a lot of, I can't even calculate the hours in my head. To think about that, that's like 100, 200 hours of entertainment available a week.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
those cats that were playing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
These boys today, I don't think any, young or old, I don't know that any of us could actually handle that kind of schedule.
Oh no, that's what I was going to say. Those cats that were playing 7 nights a week, you imagine the chops they had. I mean, like they didn't even have to be awake to rip songs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's unfathomable, if that's the word.
Yeah, it works.
But I mean, also now we do 3 1-hour sets for most of our entertainment, other than the bands that are more of a show band. Usually the show bands will do an all-in show or a one break show, depending on how long we plan to go and things like that. Now we're doing 3 1-hour sets. You do an hour, you take a half an hour break, you do an hour, take a half an hour break, and then you come out for your last hour. 3 hours. That's a nice schedule. Again, those cats back in the day, when I got into my office at Ameristar, there's all this old paperwork. And to me, it was just neat, like looking through all the old contracts, contracts back from 20 some years ago are still in my desk. And I'm like looking at all these people that had played there over the years. And then, I started looking at some of the locals, and, they were playing 6 sets. They would play 45, take a 15-minute break, and do that 6 times a night. So that's a lot of playing, man.
That's like the parents doing the walking to school uphill in the snow both ways. They don't do it like they used to.
Well, and all those breaks too, all those breaks will wear you down.
It really does.
It's one thing to keep
it,
going. It's a whole nother thing to just, obviously I'm not talking about playing 5-6 hours straight, but I'm talking about if you take all those breaks, it's like, every time there's a break taken, it's like this feeling of, all right, well, I'm getting tired now, that kind of thing. And if you take those many breaks, you'd have to almost be like psyching yourself out,
Or you're that guy that's like Budweiser, shot of Jack Daniels. All right, first set.
Yeah.
All right, second set, we're on break. Budweiser. With two breaks, you can't get in too much trouble. But if you have, start the show and then you got 6 breaks throughout the night, man, you get yourself in a little trouble there.
Yeah, that last set would kind of probably be a mess.
So what got you started, Cameron? I remember you telling me about internships and things to that nature. Give us the, where you kind of started, where you came from.
I think about this all the time, and it's going to stem back to, I owned an entertainment and DJ company for 20 plus years now too. But it starts back to when I was 3 years old. That's where I'm going to take you back as far
that's what we want.
That's what we want. Yeah.
So music was, I guess, from the time I was born, like my parents said, I was dancing and moving to music. Like I said, I got my first snare drum when I was 3. Well, also when I was 3, I would always play records at the house. And I would get mad because I wanted to play a song off of the next record and, like a DJ on the radio and not interrupt what I was playing. So my parents bought me a second turntable so that I could play the song I wanted from this album and the song I wanted from that album. And, I guess at that age, at 3-4 years old, I was tearing dad's stereo apart, rewiring everything, making mixtapes, on cassette at age 4. And that's where just the audio stuff just really started to evolve in my head. I never really thought about it. I really didn't, I continued with the drums as a drummer. I recorded an album in high school, full-fledged, that was 92, 93. So, CD production was still quite expensive back then.
Yeah.
In 1992 to make an album and release 1,000 copies of it wasn't cheap. But I put that together and released an album with my band at 9th, 10th grade era. And
now, was you singing or just playing guitar?
I was a drummer.
Just with that. Okay.
Yeah, I was a drummer on that album. And but my high school was a magnet program. It was a technology magnet. So we were learning electronics. And the cool thing is we had a recording studio in high school. So we were allowed to, ninth grade, you really don't have too much, you kind of have to take everything that's there. But by 10th grade, you have a study hall or you have an extra period or something like that. So 10th grade, I was able to take an independent study, which, let me just sit in a studio by myself for 45 minutes a day throughout, the entire year I was in high school. And the teacher was awesome. He would stay late. He would come in early, and that was just kind of his thing. So, classes started at 8:30. He came in by 7. I would be in school by 7 o'clock, sitting in the studio, waiting for him to unlock the door so that I could go in the studio, and I'd spend that entire morning before class in the studio. And he would stay till sometimes 4 o'clock. We get out of class at 2:30, 3 o'clock
Yeah.
at the latest. So I'd spend an hour after. So by the time like 11th grade or so, I've kind of, gone through all the Yamaha sound book, manual. I don't know if you ever looked at that, but that's kind of like the go-to, the Yamaha sound reinforcement manual or handbook, it's called. It's pretty much, if you're an engineer, you should own a copy of it. If you're not an engineer and you have to set up sound for your band, you should probably buy yourself a copy of it. And at least it's reading a technical manual, so it's a real boring read if you're not into it. But all the information is there. So anyway, I learned and did everything I could, kind of like put this album together while learning the studio there. And I had gone to one of those job career day things that ended up at the
Career
really
day.
big. Yeah, it was like a career day, but you actually go there. So it was like me and like a couple other kids that ended up going to Audiomation. It was the largest recording studio in the entire greater Pittsburgh area. And I guess the guy was impressed with my knowledge through the tour. And he goes, normally we don't let people intern until they're in college, but I started interning at the studio at about 11th grade. And I interned there for, man, at least until the end of high school. So 2 years. And that summer, that was a weird summer. That summer I actually got hired by CBS. And that's when I actually started doing radio. So like right after senior year, I got hired by CBS and was overnights on a rock radio station. They're like, well, the
Nice.
board. It was like one of those kind of things I just kind of fell into. Like I ended up there for something. I don't know. It was meet someone or talk to somebody, and ended up in the studio hanging out. And before you knew it, I was like running the board for this dude, and they were like, "Hey, do you want a job?" I'm like, "Okay."
So did you actually get the DJ or were you just engineering there?
No, I was DJing on 104.7 The Revolution in
Awesome.
Pittsburgh. And it lasted a good 3 months before they sold the station and I was out of work. They sold us out and we went from a really cool rock station to a smooth jazz. And then I don't know what happened after that, but it was cool. My 3 months in radio was neat.
I bet that was kind of a trip. That'd be I could see that being pretty fun, being a DJ.
Well, to still have that on a resume, no matter how, that young
Sure.
is unbelievable.
So at that time, all right, now that I've beat around the bush and told 8 other stories that kind of really, evolved this story. So bands playing, we're like kind of like indie alternative. Well, there's this really like dumpy club in Pittsburgh, and Johnny would hate that I would say that, but it was like punk club. It was crazy, holes in the wall, the entire walls of the entire place are just padded and soundproof from the fact that there's just been flyers upon flyers stapled to the walls for years.
Yeah.
But it's called the Electric Banana, and I'm at the Electric Banana playing with my band one night, and it's this small, like maybe you could probably fit 150 people in there if you're lucky. But it was a staple. I mean, like big punk bands, like actually big bands that are not even like punk played there. Like the Goo Goo Dolls played there before they were famous.
Nice.
Typo Negative played there, Slayer played there, Gore played there, like lots of metal and punk bands through the years, before anybody really kind of knew who they were, played there. But anyway, my band's playing, and Johnny gets in a fight with a sound engineer, and Johnny's like, "Hey, Cameron, get over here." I'm like, "What, Johnny?" He's like, "Get behind the board, push the buttons, make the band sound good." So again, it was just one of those things. I ended up being somewhere, and this guy was like, "Yeah," he was like, "Here's the board, you're hired, and I guess you're our sound guy." I ended up working there for like a year or so, and then I really got into the pizza game and kind of got out of it. But that was my first start, and a lot of acts that ended up becoming well-known national acts. I did get to, run sound for them in this, dirty Electric Banana Club inside of Pittsburgh. It's right off of like Pitt campus in the Oakland side of Pittsburgh. It was a block from my high school.
Any interesting stories from that period that could be told on a let's say this is a rated, we'll give this a R rating podcast, so we're not NC-17, but we're R.
Yeah, R these days isn't that bad, but
we can say some hails and dams.
I mean, there's not really a lot of great stories from the Electric Banana. The people that might check this out that are from back home will say like, that dude is the biggest liar ever, because like there's obviously millions of stories from the Electric Banana. The guy that owned the Electric Banana got the Electric Banana because he went to jail for a guy in the mob.
Oh boy.
And the mob originally owned this club, and it was a go-go club in the late 60s. And Johnny took the rap for somebody, went to jail for like 3 years, and they gave him the club as, that was his reparations or whatever.
Thanks for not being a snitch.
Yeah. For taking the fall for this guy. And then, Johnny was, it's funny because like a few years ago, there was this TV show that came out. It was on like A&E, and it was like the Dom of Pittsburgh or something. It was about this guy that's, supposable mafia guy that owns the couple strip clubs in Pittsburgh. And I'm like watching it, and it's like, I'm like, it has to be so fake. And then like second episode in, it's like the dude that owns the strip clubs, old man dad's like tinkering around, and they're like talking about him back in the day. And like Johnny Banana shows up on this TV show, and I about lost it. Yeah, I'm like, really? You casted Johnny Bananas for this TV show? But yeah, I mean, there's stories that, nightly that Johnny was going to shoot the band, and the band started, trashing stuff in the bar because they weren't getting paid, or just ridiculous stuff. But tying that to talent buying, it's just absolutely hilarious. You got these guys out there on tour that are trying to make some kind of living for themselves, and they don't know any better, and they stop in Pittsburgh. They're like, hey, we'll play for like $300 a night. At the end of the night, they get like, an Italian sandwich and $50, and they're ready to fight the dude. And all of a sudden, Johnny's firing the gun into the ceiling, tell people to sit down, shut up, get out. I'm going to steal your equipment. Like, I mean, I mean, the Electric Banana could have its own, like, probably, like, 3-season TV show with all the antics that happened in that place. It was just absolutely insane.
Mm.
Now, okay,
I mean, I'm sure there's other stories. I don't know if that's what you were digging for.
but now this was not the club that you ended up going to before coming down to Mississippi, right?
No. This was. I mean, I was not even 21 when I was working at this club.
Gotcha. Okay.
The
Okay. I didn't know
Electric
how.
Banana.
Okay. I guess I didn't put together the timing of how long that stint
So
was.
there was like a big lull in there. So like after Electric Banana, I kind of did the pizza thing.
The pizza thing, yeah.
Bought my first business, and and then once I sold out of pizza shops, I did that for about 4 years and did well with it, made money, and it was just time to move on because of just the way things were evolving. I had a business partner, and it just ended up, we decided it was the best time to kind of get out. So again, playing in bands, and at that point I had always DJ'd a little bit, like as far as, beside the radio stuff, actually DJing weddings, nightclubs, and things like that. I've always, since I was like 18, did that for side money. But came back to that, kind of DJ'd full time when I was DJing full time. So this was about 11 years ago. Some dude on Facebook just messaged me. He's like, Kim, I swear I remember you like ran sound from my band once or something. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, that's how we know each other. Well, he's like, you know, uh, they just fired the sound guy to like want to work at this, this nightclub. I was like, yeah, sounds great. So I went down, just kind of like walked through, did an interview, and it was, some of the stuff was, a little bigger than I had been used to and things like that. And I was like, oh, I'll figure it out, no worries. And lo and behold, it was just like boom, right out of the gate. They were not doing a ton of shows. It was mainly, a lot of system maintenance, keeping things up, making sure there was a lot of power amps out, a lot of speakers out throughout the entire nightclub. We kind of, I kind of eased myself in and did that. And about 2 years after I had been there, they decided that, hey, let's really give live music a bigger push. And they actually hired a promoter, big time, like talent buyer. And we started at that point. That's when we started shows like 7 days a week. We're just pounding act after act. It was mainly metal, some punk, but for the most part, it was mainly metal shows. And then, Friday, Saturday shows, we had to flip quick and get a DJ on, open up as a nightclub, because that's where the real money was.
Hmm.
But, I worked there for about 8.5 years before I started working for the Meadows. Well, I even worked there while I worked for the Meadows, which is owned by Penn Gaming. And as soon as I put my 6 months in, I was eligible for transfer. And I was just like, at that point of life where it was like things were going really well there, and shows were booking. And then it got to the point where they even brought in a second promoter. We were doing so many shows to buy even some bigger shows in this nightclub. And I just felt like I was just like, I don't know exactly what's going on, because they were getting ready to remodel. And while the shows made money for the promoters and it was good, they weren't a cash cow.
Yeah.
They were making, couple $100, $1,000 a night. Whereas when they had DJs, they're making 30, 40,000 as a nightclub. So it was just kind of like chump change to them. And I felt that, something was kind of like, it doesn't seem good. I don't know what's going to go on. And that's when I like kind of looked at the backup plan and started working for casinos, and started working for the Meadows. And by the time before I decided to take this job in Mississippi, they had just finished their remodel. And when they decided they were, after the remodel, rebranding and everything like that, they decided they no longer wanted to have live music. So it was really good move. Like I exited right at the perfect time. But I was with them for 8.5 years. We did a lot of fabulous shows at that venue, Diesel in Pittsburgh.
That's what I was going to ask is if you could give us some of those acts there and maybe some of those experiences there. And also, where did the Red Hot Chili Peppers, before we that story, where did that come from? We may have already crossed over some of this.
That was like way back in high school, and just helping out and working as a stagehand. That was a graffiti nightclub in Pittsburgh. Now the guy that I actually ended up working at Diesel with was the buyer at that club back in the day, and he had bought that show. But anyway, it was the story was you know I forget who it was. It was some other big band, and they're in the green room. And they're like, dude, this green room smells like ass. I'm like, okay. I was like, musicians are slobs, I'm like, what do you want from me? The couch has like 900 beers spilled on it. It's full of like cigarette holes and like, like what else do you want from me? They're like, no, dude, come in here. And it was somebody, I'm trying to remember. It was somebody like hitting at that time. It was like Collective Soul, or I don't remember exactly who it was that said the room smelled like ass. And we were like looking and looking and looking. And I'm like, I took the trash out. They're like, no, it still stinks. And like we look and we're like looking up in the ceiling, and there's like just a ceiling tile that's just like a little bit out of place. Well, we get up on it, stand on a chair, or I was standing on a couch or something. I put it up there and I slide it back. And I'm like, oh, it's up here. And it was I grabbed this tray out of the ceiling, and it was like they didn't eat anything off of it. It was this big ass rotten, moldy, maggot filled deli tray somebody had on a rider. So it's just disgustingly foul. And like I bag it up, take it out. I'm like, go to Ronaldo. I'm like, who's the last person that had like a rider that had like a deli tray on it? And he's like, I don't know. And like he starts thinking, and he's like, oh shit, man. He's like, dude, the last person to have a deli tray was the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I'm like, yeah, well, I was like, I can't really identify it, but it kind of looked like ham and turkey. But like I pulled it out of the ceiling, and like and like I guess the moral of the story is like he emailed like I'm like, why do you even say anything? But I guess he emailed the agent, and he's like, yeah, your guys left the deli tray in the ceiling. And like the email back, like he showed me, and he's like, the email back was like, yeah, Flea does that sometimes.
Oh my God. Now, what year would that have been?
Oh, I was like not on staff. I was young. That had to be like 92. So like before, like, Under the Bridge was like really big.
Nice.
Left a lasting impression at every joint they played, I guess.
I guess.
Stinky
Yeah.
impression. Wow. Oh my gosh. That is unbelievable. Okay, so back to the club. You guys, some of those bands, so maybe some stories there, because I know you said the game is a lot bigger now at this club before coming to
Well,
Mississippi.
I mean, the game was big then. I mean, they did like to hire, big names. Everybody heard the disaster of Firefest, right?
Firefest.
Yeah. They made a
joint-
movie out of it and everything. They sold these tickets on this island for like this, EDM, rappers and all these people were promised this luxury, awesome vacation thing. And when they got there, like, they were like white, like crappy tents, nothing set up. It was just an absolute disaster. You'll have to look it up. So anyway, if I'm correct with my people, Joe Rule was one of the investors in Firefest.
Oh wow.
And
okay.
So we had Joe Rule at the club, right? Man, it's a hot summer day in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh does get quite humid, and there are nights it doesn't cool down whatsoever. So it's probably 88 outside at 9 o'clock, the 100% humidity. So we have Joe Rule, right? So tickets say that, Joe Rule, 10 o'clock, get there early. So all these people start packing in the club like 8 o'clock. And it's like a sardine can. And like the air conditioner ain't working real good.
Yeah.
It's already 88 outside with 100% humidity. Well, inside it was starting to hit like 100 degrees. And you got these people just smashed up against the stage waiting for this dude at like 9 o'clock. So, 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, DJ's still hyping people at 10 o'clock. Oh, don't worry. Finally, at about 1:10, his driver calls me.
Hold on. Did you say 1:10?
1:10. Yes, 1:10.
Wow.
Oh
AM.
my God.
Hey, we're close. Where is this? So he pulls up. It's 1:20. We get him out of the car. He's like, man, I want to go to the green room. He's got my stuff in the green room. Nothing illegal. He asked for like all this liquor. It's like 1:20. He was supposed to be on stage at 10 o'clock.
I mean, I'm sure the crowd's irate at this point.
And people were passing out. People were leaving because it's so hot in there and you can't breathe in there. And they oversold the event by like 400 people. Our capacity was like 1,100. They sold 1,500 tickets plus, the 100 or so people they let in for free that, friends of friends or whoever, this or that. So like, then he's like, yeah, my DJ didn't make it.
Oh my God.
And our DJ goes, well, do you have the tracks? He's like, nah. So promoter paid like $20,000 for this dude to come. We knew he was only going to do about 45 minutes. He was supposed to do it earlier in the night, things like that. Nightclubs do that. They'll put a guy on at like 11 o'clock, and then he'll do his hour or whatever. Then you just continue the night with your house DJ, and everybody has fun. Everybody's happy.
But there's 1,500 people sitting here waiting.
Yes.
Or been waiting for hours.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's the entertainers. That's the entertainment. Everybody in entertainment's nightmare.
So he finally gets ready to come up, and again, he didn't have his tracks. So basically we just gave him a wireless microphone. The DJ played his CD, and he like hyped a little bit over his own
song,
produced CDs, like no cuts, no edit, no nothing. Like, normally if you're going to do that, it's the vocals dropped out except for the main vocal, things like that. So no preparation whatsoever. So he did about 20 minutes over the top of his tracks, and then complained to the DJ. The DJ didn't have the right tracks, because DJs play, mixed tracks, edits. Dude wasn't prepared for this. He had no idea what was going to go on. He's
at this point just glad that something happened. Yeah. If it was at that point though, I mean, it's 1 o'clock, 1:30, whatever. It's time to, maybe even just refund money and let's try this again later or something. Yeah. If I was the entertainer, I would say, hey, I'm going to come back and do this for free. I screwed this night. Y'all
Yeah,
give these
no,
people
it
their
was,
tickets.
you know, guys won't do that. It's, prepay, and they're not paying the money back. And, so that's an important lesson there as far as a talent buyer goes. Make sure you use the proper agencies. Use the agencies that are the top agencies that are representing these acts. APA, the Agency for the Performing Arts, United Talent is a big one. I'm scratching my brain. There's like 4 or 5 that are direct, and then there's all these other little guys that what they do is they sub from an agent for the actual agent from the band. These little agents will sub from them and then pay a fee to make a couple bucks. They'll raise the price on a band 1,000 to put 1,000 in their pocket.
Yeah.
So you don't
Well,
want to be using those.
and I take it that those bigger agencies probably hold the artist accountable in a lot of those situations, and it's in their clauses.
I would doubt that they're probably going to fool with many artists that would pull that at all.
And a lot of these
No, they don't.
contracts, there's like I said, there's clauses in there of certain things. If those things happen, here's this is what happens if that happens, and here's what you don't get, or here's what there's just a lot of different types of write-ups on that. But
Oh yeah, I mean, and the contracts are very extensive. As a company, as Penn Gaming, we have a amendum that we attach to all these contracts. So not only do I go through the big, agency contract, I have to attach, here are my clauses on top of yours, and then you got to get them to accept it. So it kind of goes back and forth legal. There's we could talk a whole nother evening about the legal process of contracts, but at the end of the day, even for everyone like you, when you get a contract, make sure you read it. Mine's pretty basic and straightforward, and it's there's no dancing with hula hoops, and the higher the purple hippo clause, and things like that. There's nothing crazy in there. Matter of fact, our contract, we kind of go both sides. We give artists creative control. And just because I give creative control to an artist doesn't mean that creative control is going to work.
sure,
Right.
I give you creative control, and first set you just decide to play Slayer and Pantera, and that doesn't work for my crowd. Guess what happened? That band's probably not gonna be on the list anymore.
yeah. So is this where you got in with Penn Gaming?
Yeah, the Meadows was owned by Penn Gaming. Actually, we were owned by Pinnacle. Pinnacle was our company we were about 16 casinos or so, and Penn bought Pinnacle after I transferred here.
Gotcha. I do remember seeing Pinnacle on the contracts before.
Yeah. So yeah, we used to be Pinnacle, and Pinnacle owned, the Meadows in Pittsburgh. They owned Maristar, Vicksburg. They owned Boomtown in New Orleans and Biloxi. They also owned the Tropicana in Las Vegas, which was actually just sold by Penn Gaming last week. Penn Gaming just sold the Tropicana.
Was they in on LeBurg? Was they in on LeBurg down in Louisiana? Where they played at?
LaBerge, yes. Yeah, there's
LaBerge,
Baton Rouge, Burge in Baton Rouge, and Lake Charles.
Yeah, the
So
one in Lake
those
Charles is the one we played at before. Yeah.
So those were all the big Pinnacle properties. I'm sure there was a couple more. But Penn owned, Penn Racecourse outside of Philadelphia, and all the Hollywoods. There's a bunch of Hollywoods: Tunica, one down in Bay St. Louis. There's one in Columbus. There's a bunch of Hollywoods ever. Penn was mainly the Hollywood properties, and I would say not too much is really changed since that transaction. A lot of the stuff that nobody would see how we do stuff has changed as far as my paperwork, who my paperwork goes to. That's really only thing that really became different with this buyout. We're still doing the same type of entertainment, the same quality of entertainment. My budget is it's actually probably larger, which I didn't think it would be post COVID. Kind of they still want to see some results
Absolutely.
prior to really doing anything, which is crazy. I say that because we have that big parking lot concert coming up Memorial Day weekend where I brought Everclear into town.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's awesome.
In the past, Ameristar has done outdoor concerts. It's obviously an outdoor show is a huge risk. You're spending a ton of cash to bring in a name, and you're hoping that name sells, and especially in a smaller market like Vicksburg, it's a shot, man. It's
Sure.
If it fails, they're not going to fire me or anything. But you know what? That is as a buyer, sometimes that crosses your mind. You're like, hey, what if this bombs?
Huge.
Well, you
bomb.
want to
It-
knock it out of the park,
Yeah,
and then your biggest factor is weather
Weather.
on an
yeah.
Yes.
outside gig. I mean, even if you sell some tickets, people may or may not come and then buy drinks or, whatever concession stuff you got.
Well, the kicker is you got to sell as many pre-sale as possible.
Yes.
Market the piss out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they really put a lot behind this. Not to say that we don't put our normal channels behind our regular entertainment, but they, I guess they really want to take the market. And I'm not a marketing guy. I know marketing a bit here and there, and I understand the inner workings of it, of ROI. You have to look at these things. I know it at least from the talent buyer side of, this is my bottom line. This is what I need to gross. And again, that's another thing that, like, to say to everybody that is looking, hey, I want to play casinos. Casinos are great. I hear that a lot from bugs are eating me. I hear that a lot from people I talk to, from friends I talk to. They're like, casinos are great. Your job's awesome, and you don't have to worry about. My friends that are engineers are like, you don't have to worry about the contract work. Friends that are bands are like, man, you just show up and there's people there. I'm like,
Yeah.
No. I mean, yes, we do have a crowd. We have a better crowd than, Joe's Bar. If Joe's Bar is going to have a band for the night, the regular 20 people are going to show up for your show at Joe's Bar because they go there every Friday or Saturday night.
Regardless.
Yes. So you're going to capitalize on, what you bring in after that. Yeah, you promote and things like that. You might do okay. The casino, it's the same aspect, has a database, and on any given time, Friday or Saturday night, it's just a scale up. I mean, there might be 1,000 people there. And not everybody's always going in to see the band. Not everybody's always interested in the band. And man, these bugs are getting bad.
Damn you, Mississippi. Damn you.
Mississippi eat me. So we're I mean, I only had 2 beers, and I'm like trying to think. I was elaborating on this like thought of, I guess bands think it's easy to play a casino. Like,
well, those people that's at the casino gambling, they might stick their head in there. They might not. I mean, you can't just count that as a, and bank on it. Well, I got a crowd by getting a gig at a casino, but just because there's people out there doing that.
Yeah.
Still got to promote that just as much as anything else.
Yeah, and the factor is, it's not like that old time. Like we were talking earlier about the old time where 7 nights a week, there's a band there, there's entertainment. So with more consistency, people are used to that. The longer things run, people develop habits, the more people are continually hanging out. And if they know they like a band, they might come 2 nights or, again, you get in that room as a band. I guess what I'm really trying to haul back to is the fact that it's not like it used to be. Now there's so many numbers and so many different things. Casinos aren't just there to throw entertainment in front of people. It used to be that way. Hey, there's entertainment. Hey, there's entertainment. Hey, there's entertainment. Now it's, so on demand that everybody, if you want to, you could check out your favorite band on your phone if they're playing somewhere
For free at the house.
You got to get people in that door to, see it. And they're treating it as us. They don't want us to make, they understand we're not going to make a ton of money. And they understand that, it costs money to get those people in to gamble. So they're using that as a marketing tool, help us get people in, help us get people
Correct.
in. And, they're not looking for us to make a ton of money, but they don't want to lose any money. So, if you keep people in the room, at some point it's great. But again, you want to get those people come in for dinner early, and, play out there on the casino floor a little bit before they come check you out. Then you want them to have so much fun in the room that they're having fun. They don't want to leave.
Sure.
Then they go out and, spend some time on a casino floor. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of where I was going. It's a two-way street between us and the bands. We really, we don't want you to go insane. I don't need a band that's going to, devote their entire checks to marketing or something like that. Show up and do a good job, be a team, market with the other bands. You see somebody, you're friends with, they're sharing your posts.
Right.
When your friends' band's playing, you're sharing their posts. And then we're like kind of developing more of a community, and then we're all working
Network
together. Exactly. And then it just kind of gets to that point where, I thought we would be now, but because of COVID, we're not. I want to be the point where country, rock, alternative, R&B, no matter who I have in the room, I want people in the area to go, you know what? They always have somebody good. We don't even need to look at who's there. We're just going to go and,
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm interested though, before I ask you about you and your wife and what probably was on her face, I don't even know her, but what was maybe on her face of we got to move to Mississippi. I wanted to hear more about some of these bands at that club before leaving there, and maybe some stories there.
Oh man. Well, you introduced me and I said, the late great Dick Dale when I mentioned to you. I'm sure you know who Dick Dale is, correct?
I've heard the name, but when you said that, who is this, J-Rob?
Guitar player, like done a lot of like the surf style picking stuff out in California.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was thinking that, but I just, I
you ever see Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
His guitar.
Gotcha. That's why I was hearing something like that, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to look too bad. I guess it looked bad.
That was like one of the earlier shows at Diesel. Um, we were kind of using like an inside talent buyer, and just really, that beginning first 2 years, we kind of had a show like maybe 3 times a month, 4 times a month. But he's somebody that really like pressed me to like keep at it, and that's why I'll mention him. He was just a fantastic, awesome guy to sit down and talk with. He would have sat in the green room and talked to anybody all night. Sign whatever, things like that. Not everybody's like that. But
Absolutely.
his his agent came to me after the show, and his agent goes, "What the hell did you do? Did you say something to him or whatever?" I'm like, "No, I just set up, ran the show, and did my thing." He's like, "No, no, 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 no." He's like, kept insistent. He's like, "You had to say something to him. You had to talk to him." And I'm like, "No, no." I was talking to him about like iced tea or something. I don't remember what it was. I was, just chatting with him. And he comes back, and he's like, he goes, "I really need to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay, like, all right, I'll stop." I was like wrapping cables. And, I said to him, I said, "Okay, what's up?" Like, you were like trying to ask me what's going on later, or, earlier. And I didn't understand what he was getting at. And he goes, "Well, I talked to Dick, and he was just so happy with the sound tonight." He goes, "How many songs do you think he sang?" I said, "I don't know, 8 or 9." He played about 20 songs. Most of his music is guitar driven, instrumental.
Pretty
And
short.
yeah, well, kind of jam band esque.
Mm.
He'll make
Uh-huh.
them 4 or 5 minutes or whatever. But he does, he'll do a Johnny Cash song here and there. But apparently he sang 8 or 9 songs that night. His agent said that's the most songs that he sang in like the last like 150 concerts.
Wow.
And he goes, I asked him, and he goes, "That guy just had my monitors tuned just so perfect that I felt like singing tonight." He goes, "I walk up on a mic and it squeals." And he goes, "Well, I do my song or two and go back to what I'm good at and play my guitar." So that, I mean, to me, that was just like the most amazing compliment ever. This guy that never sings, just like, and here I am, like, still kind of green on these bigger shows. I was like, wow, that's just like a hell of a compliment. And like after that, I was just like, I guess my confidence level was just so much that I just stopped questioning myself on things I did and just did it.
Hmm. So, what year would this have been?
Oh, like maybe 2011, 2012.
Hmm. So, what would have been one of the worst uh, experiences you had with bands out of
Oh,
there?
this is a good one. I don't know if I told you this one. There's a couple. There has to be a couple. Um, you know who the Misfits are?
Uh
Oh
huh.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Doyle from the Misfits tours by himself
Mm.
as Doyle, and he plays Misfits tunes. And he comes in, and my crew it that and now we've graduated from like kind of using the house guys to, I really, at that time, I actually had a crew. I had my own stagehands. Then I got to pick the guys that worked for me, and I developed pretty awesome crew. And what they would do is they would, help whoever the guys on the tour were, load everything in, set up the stage for me, and then take everything out at the end of the show. And I just got to be, stage manager, communicate with the artist. If they didn't have an engineer, I ran the show. they did. He had any questions on our board. I was sitting there. But Doyle and his guitar, he's like, got this rack behind. Well, no. We're getting too far. We're loading in. My guys are like, what the hell is this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, you're paid to do a job. Just do whatever they say. And this was like just the start of the crew. This was like probably somewhere like year like 3 there. So like the last 5 years, I used these same 5 or 6 guys all the time. Well, anyway, Doyle on the trailer for the bus had all these weight sets, these machines and everything like that. And they made my guys bring in and set up like this gym in the middle of the club for dude to like work out. So like, they set up like weight bench, carried in all these like barbells, all these weights, everything, like benches and like slant bench, and like for Doyle to work out, because Doyle works out every day. And I like went to say something, and one dude's in the band's like, don't talk to Doyle. I'm like, what do you mean don't talk to Doyle? He's like, if you need to ask Doyle something, you ask me and I will talk to Doyle.
Because Doyle's working out.
Because Doyle's working out. I mean,
hey, his last name ain't Hargraves, is it?
It'll be
Doyle Hargraves. Oh, that's wild.
So yeah, Doyle's working out, and the entire day. If I need to talk to Doyle, I got to talk to the agent or the other dude or the tour manager if I need to ask Doyle something. So at that point, I was like, well, fuck it. I'm just not asking Doyle anything.
Oh.
So all right, after the weight set, the band starts setting up the stage. All right, I told you about this venue. It was a 2-level venue, so we could fit 1,000, 1,100 people in this venue. Well, for smaller shows, we only used the downstairs. They would fit like 300 or so. Well, Doyle sold like 127 tickets, so there's no need for the upstairs of the club. So, I mean, obviously, we weren't making no money off of this one, but so there's 127 tickets sold, right? A club that holds 300 people. Any logical guitarist, what are they going to play out of? They're going to play out of 9 412 cabinets, right?
Yeah.
So they proceed to set up 9 412 cabinets.
Fill up the whole back of the stage, Becker.
Okay. When Van Halen did it, right, there was one that worked, and every other one was just a fake dead cabinet, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, not Doyle. All 9 of Doyle's work. And they're like powered by like 2,500 watt QSE power amps behind it.
So much for low stage volume.
So like I'm up there and I'm like looking, and there's like Doyle's not up there, because God forbid I would be up there with a sound meter when Doyle was up there, but his guitar dude's up there. And I'm like, you realize that guitar rig's 143 dB. He goes, oh, I better turn it up. Doyle's going to yell at me.
Not.
So we start.
So you had zero control out front with this rig.
Yeah, exactly. Like 140 plus, just guitar in your face. I'm like, yeah, I'm really not going to be able to get anything else over that. And, we start sound check with Doyle. And Doyle's first words out of his name, man, it's killing me. Doyle's first words out of his mouth were, I can't fucking hear myself in my monitor.
Turn around, asshole.
Turn up. You need to turn up.
I'm like, well, I'm out of stage monitors. Normally people only need 1. Sometimes people need 2. I did put 2 in front of you. They're as loud as they can go without feeding back. And, you're microphone's just picking up your guitar a whole lot. So your guitar's coming out of your monitor too. I don't know how you expect me to get your voice to the point you could hear it.
Good Lord. That sounds like a nightmare, man.
Oh, it was just a disaster. It wasn't the worst disaster. I mean, it went, it worked, and whatever. And the guys put the weight set back on the trailer. Everybody got paid, and
but you don't
there,
book him again.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, even if you were wearing in ears, the guitar coming through that
There'd be no
vocal
way.
mic, that vocal mic's gonna be just blasting in your ear. I mean, you can go turn the guitar channel down all you want to. It's gonna be coming through that vocal mic.
The guitar channel did not come out of the mains.
There's no ever any situation to need 9 412 cabinets. That's just absurd.
Yeah, it was.
Hell, that's Heinz Field kind of. Even Heinz Field, you don't need that shit.
No.
No, because the PA's doing the work. I mean, I guess if you want to be that loud on stage for whatever reason, sure, go for it. It's not going to screw up the mix, but 300 seat club for the evening.
Man, to me, it's always best low stage volume and let the system do its job, and it's cleaner. It's just better. I mean, and if you need some fill in a little bit, whatever but let the system do its job and keep that, you don't need all that blaring ass, whatever. And because all it is it's a nightmare for the engineer, especially the cross points, if you get within the cross point, if they're using all in ear monitors and stuff. And, if you got all that loud stuff coming from the guitar or, whatever, it's a nightmare to try to compensate, a little bit here and there to try to get, those people to hear the vocals and the, everything clearly,
Yeah.
I've always been an advocate, and a good thing about this group in particular, we're going by that book of very, very hardly any stage volume at all. Matter of fact, they're all the guitarist and bass player running direct, so we're all in ears and but the best ones that I've seen, that's where I took that from. I'm not, patting us on the back by no means. I'm just saying that, there was lessons learned from bands using real low, stage volume and using their ears and let the system do its job.
I can't say in younger years I haven't been told by sound guys to turn down. But
I got shame shields, man. I will straight up in the middle of a set, especially the casino. I will walk out and shame shield a dude's guitar amp.
well, I mean, it's stuff you learn later to be a fan of lower wattage amps. If you're wanting to get that tone out of something of a cranked amp, which is your sweet spot, either use those things or get a lower wattage amp. There's no need to be blowing somebody's head off where the sound guy can't do his job.
Or I mean, even now they do make, there's amps you could do it on now, or you can add a pot on your output, to lessen what's going to the cab,
right?
While still getting the full, while getting the full tube,
Break
crunch
up.
sound, whatever that you're looking for out of your head.
Right.
There's so many ways now. The gears came a long ways in the past, decade, 2 decades, where you ain't got to do a lot of that, all that loud ass. And I remember when I first started, like say 16, 17 years ago, you couldn't even then, and there was a lot of advancements coming in, back then, but we didn't have the money for a lot of that stuff. And, you was cranking everything, trying to hear and loud stuff on stage and all this. And hell, it's a wonder I still got hearing these days,
Yeah. I mean, it's tough too. And the same thing with the technology advancements. As a band, I think you have to be more apt to conditioning yourself to at least run your own stage mix, especially with ears. Like I I'll mix ears and I have no problem mixing ears, but I do feel more comfortable because there are some guys that just love to just crank the living daylights out of their ears.
Yeah, ain't no sense in that neither.
You know, I don't want to be a guy. That'd be like the weirdest lawsuit ever. Sound guy sued by band for loss of
Hearing loss.
hearing. Yeah, like, yeah, I think that would be an easy one to get out of, but you know, it's still. Matter of fact, all right. After this whole like Doyle thing, and I kind of, you know, put myself in the casino situation. I put a clause in my. I don't think it's in the contract, but I think it's in my week of or day sheet, and it's like we reserve the right to refuse, you know, use of equipment that would be detrimental to the guest experience of the show.
Yeah, that's
That's
sad that
perfect.
you have to do that, but some of these people ain't thinking about the crowd. They're thinking about themselves. You know.
Well, the person that really made that, and it is a pretty a short story, but going back to Diesel, we had Head PE. Ever hear of Head PE?
I don't
I
think
think
so.
so. Well, I think I
They're
remember the
big.
name.
They had a real big hit in I guess late 90s, early 2000s. Is Hey Bartender hit me with a double something. It's kind of like rap rock, new metal esque,
I
whatever.
definitely remember the name. I don't remember a lot about the band.
So anyway, the Head PE guy, he comes in with this tube preamp that like Christopher Lloyd made in like Back to the Future. Like this is some like awesome, super amazing custom tube preamp. Okay, tube preamps are, you know, they're awesome.
That's
They're,
cool.
you know, definitely super cool. He proceeds to put a $99 Digitech floor vocal processor into this $10,000 tube preamp.
Hmm.
And then pulls a 58 out of his pocket and plugs a 58 into this
Into the 100,
Digitech,
yeah.
into the $100 floor processor, into the 10 grand tube preamp.
Yeah. I see where this is going. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the band sound checks and the lead singer doesn't sound check with the band. They check everything. I said everything. You know, okay, you know what? No problem. This is going to work. You know, boggled my mind why somebody would do such a thing. Well, first song comes up, click, changes the patch. So the patch was not even close to gain structure
Sure.
of the prior patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like feedback through the entire club.
Why didn't you test everything in a sound check? Every pedal, you sound check it, man.
So, and then he goes to another patch and it's just as bad. And then the batteries die. And this is the first song. This is the first song. It's not plugged in. The batteries are dead. He has no microphone whatsoever.
Oh my God.
And he's just like getting hot and getting hot. And then finally his dude comes out and puts batteries in. And then it pops the system like while the band's playing. Because it's, you know, not set up. You know, there's, you know, equipment that has bypass where you could plug a mic in and, you know.
Yeah.
So giant pop because the microphone's loud as shit. I'm like, oh man, this is just gonna be like a bad day, and I knew it. So like, he goes back to the first patch that we sound checked with, and he's okay. And then he changes his patch for his second song, and he's like talking, and it's feeding back. He's like, "Come on, Cam, what the fuck, Cam? Like, don't you know how to run sound, man?"
Blaming it
like,
on you, yeah.
It never got fixed. It never got fixed. The dude MF'd me in between every song, during every song. Finally, about 5 songs in, he did just unplug the processor, and I threw a little bit of verb and delay on his voice, and it was slightly better, but he still wasn't happy with it. He's like, this sounds like shit. This sounds like shit. Come on, Cam. Dude, it was the whole show. And it was like, that was just like the worst show ever. And like my friends are like into that band. They're like, dude, what happened with so-and-so's mic? I'm like, do you want to end up in a bar fight right now? Like,
well, and the fact of calling you out over the system like
Yeah,
that,
that's complete bullshit.
yeah,
Regardless.
No matter
of what's
how
happening.
big you are, don't ever call the sound guy out like over the microphone.
No, they can,
like
could screw you.
I mean, I would never do anything stupid because I'm trying to run the show and things like that. But it's like, the audience doesn't know what's going on.
Exactly. And that's who you're hurting the most, is the people who paid to come see the show.
Soundman sabotage. I do have a story about that. So I'm working for Jeff Tate of Queensryche.
Yeah.
And he had his own engineer with him for the evening. And I forget who the opening act was. They might have been touring together, or it might have been somebody local. Well, Jeff Tate was doing this like acoustic kind of evening. It was like percussion, a couple guitars, like 2 female backing singers. It was a good show, but they didn't have a bass player. And his engineer is going to me, man, there's too much low end in this opening band's mix. You have to pull some low end. Sonically, I don't want my mix to sound so empty because I don't have a bass player. And I'm like, okay.
Why don't you get a damn bass player? Why would you go? What are they trying to pull off the doors or something?
Well, I mean, it was acoustic, quiet kind of.
Well, yeah, okay, I get it. I get that.
So, anyway, the opening band, about halfway through, I'm like, man, I was like, where did my mix go? It just doesn't sound right. And I'm like chasing it and looking it and chasing it and looking it. And I should have figured it out. And I like kick myself to this day that I didn't figure it out. But I wasn't on a digital board at the time, and I didn't pay attention, and I didn't post meter my channel. Well, the sound engineer for Jeff Tate and Queensryche went over the snake, pulled the bass channel out of my snake, set it down while the opening act was playing.
Man.
Wow.
And he did have an amp on stage, so I was hearing some bass, and I'm like, I lost, I'm like, what's going on? I'm checking, comps, I'm checking everything, and like,
well, you wouldn't think to check that some jerk pulled the plug on you,
Yeah. I wonder why he didn't think about maybe even just doing like a subharmonic on the acoustic to add just some, some bottom end,
I mean,
acoustic guitars.
Throw an octaver on there, and local H.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some tricks you can do to kind of help those matters.
There's a new one that just came out, and I'm guessing I think it's a variation of the Boss octave pedal, and it'll only octave the first note. So if you're playing a guitar, somehow it knows to root note your guitar.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
They got there's all kind of stuff now to help. Hell, worst case scenario too, you can track. As long as everybody's playing with a click, you could track in something,
Certainly.
It's that big of a deal. If you just don't have the guy on the stage to play it, I get it. So what did your wife think? How did this meeting go that, honey, we're moving to Mississippi?
It was really weird.
I'm sure.
Um, so I had been working at the Meadows, and it was like a weird off day. And I want to say it was like a Wednesday afternoon, and I'm just sitting on a couch, and she's like, "What are you up to?" I said, "Oh, I was looking for jobs." She's like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "I just applied for a job in Mississippi." She's like, "What?" I said, "Well, I said it's for the Meadows that I'm working for now." And I said, I just started there 6 months ago, but everything on my resume there is completely up to date in their system. So all I had to do was like click a button to apply. And that was like Wednesday. My director called me on Friday. He hired me on Monday. And then less than 2 weeks later, I was here.
So did she have a career that she had to leave to come down?
Well, yeah, she did. She is a medical laboratory technician. Actually, she's a medical laboratory manager now, but she was a lab tech when we moved down here. So fortunately, the medical field with laboratory techs, it's very easy to find a job. You could
Sure.
move anywhere in America right now and immediately have a job.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Hey, let's," and I'm like, "Oh, do we want to go for this or what?" She's like, "Go for it." I think a part of it is the fact that she hadn't been doing that very long. She was in accounting and hated accounting, and the fact that she wasn't a CPA, so she would work for a company for 4 years or so, kind of get to the top of the pay scale for that job. And because she wasn't a CPA, they would just kind of like let her go, then hire somebody out of college again. It's,
Mhm.
at the bottom of the pay scale, recycle, repeat. So, she had only been working in the medical field for maybe 2 years. And she's like, yeah, it's fine.
But this, you talked about it on the phone, this weather being, you guys have spurts of it in Pittsburgh, but it's obviously a lot more brutal throughout the year here with the humidity.
Oh, yeah. It's equally as bad in Pittsburgh because, Three Rivers, all the water and, a lot of rainfall. So it'll rain and then just, sit, evaporate, create humidity. So yeah, it does get pretty brutal there, but it's really August is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
July could be pretty rough, but usually last week of July, first week of August, you'll be hitting 90, 95 with 100% humidity every day, which is here. It's like, man, tonight I'm sitting out here on the porch talking to you guys, and it was like 82 with almost 100% humidity when we started, and it's not even May yet.
Yep.
So yeah, it gets rough.
That damn Dole.
It's all still his fault.
Doyle's the reason Mississippi had an ice storm this year.
Yeah. He blew some winter weather down with those 9 cabinets from somewhere up north.
What a ego ass.
Dude, it wasn't bad enough that we were trying to come out of COVID and like we get the ice storm of the century down here.
Yeah.
Now, how bad was it up in Tennessee? Did you just get a big snowfall? I know a couple of friends up there ended up with a big snowfall, but they didn't get the ice that we got.
We got quite a bit of ice. I mean, I can't remember how many inches of snow it was, but there after a minute, some of that snow melted and got compacted. So the roads was pretty rough there for at least a week. I mean, um, you could get around on the bigger highways, but like the little back roads and stuff like that, you didn't want to be fooling around there and chance getting stuck, not being able to get back home.
Yeah, I mean, there was literally 2 inches of ice on my truck when I took it off the cap on the back. There was 2 inches just solid sheet of ice because
Yeah.
I didn't go anywhere. The wife had to brave the hospital earlier, but casino we closed for 5 days.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I got a 4-wheel drive and hard headed. So I had to go kind of make a loop and see what was going on. But I didn't, when I say I didn't go like playing down back roads or anything, I didn't care anything about getting stranded and couldn't get anybody to come get me.
But now you guys get a lot of snow in Pittsburgh in the winter. I mean, that's a standard thing every year, right?
It's hit and miss. It really is. We get frigid cold, I would say, more than we get a lot of snow. We do get the early season ice where it drops down in temperature overnight. So it'll start raining in the afternoon and it's 34. Everything gets soaking wet. It goes down to 28 overnight and everything's a sheet of ice. And then it'll snow. The front changes and then it'll dump 3 inches of snow on top of the ice. And you're just, kind of screwed. But, they're prepared for it. They got trucks with big blades that pull the ice off the road. They have, the sodium phosphate mix.
Yeah.
When it's, one temperature, they're using salt. When it's ice, they're using salt and cinders. When it's, they're using calcium. They use this liquid stuff on the highways now. Like it snows and you literally can usually, unless it comes down like super, super fast, you can get out of your neighborhood and get onto a main road and it's clear.
I'd noticed that a lot. Done several stints truck driving over the years and go up to Michigan or Wisconsin and stuff like that. And during the winter, and man, the snow on the sides of the road or piled up in parking lots. Like if it done this back home, there'd be no traveling for a while. But up there was no big deal. I mean, it was just absolutely nothing on the highways.
Or they even now, like they have these augers that they run, these long 40-ton dump back trailer trucks. And they'll run this auger and it just shoots all the snow into a truck. Truck drives down to the river, dumps the snow in the river, and they're just running a trail of trucks back and forth, cleaning all
Wow.
the streets up.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're not equipped with all that machinery. And matter of fact, that ice storm that we just had is the worst one I remember in my adult life. But no doubt, I think maybe there was one in the early 90s.
94.
94.
The Exxon in my old hometown of Walnut, Mississippi, had T-shirts that said I survived Ice Storm 94.
So I was 13. I was 13 in 94.
That's funny. That's what my wife got from her employer for. She worked during, she got a T-shirt that said, "I, survived and worked the ice storm of 2021 in Mississippi."
Yeah, that's definitely by far the worst one I've seen around here. Something like that. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, we were literally ice sledding and stuff down our neighborhood, down the road out here, with the kids and everything. It was just no traffic at all.
So we had that, and then I guess we had like a little flurry earlier in the season. I think last year we had, you could see snow, but it didn't even lay on the ground. And it was the December before we moved here that you had snow. So that was like 2018 or something. You actually had like 2 or 3 inches down
We
here.
can count the years we had snow.
And then they were like, there's never been snow. And that's what like people I work with, they're like, Cam, you moved here and all of a sudden it snows here now. What's up with that, man?
You remember that time back in 1998 when we had snow, man? It was pretty cool. Dude, literally here you see a snowflake, they're like, cancel school. Did you see that?
And there's absolutely no milk or bread to be found
Yeah, eggs.
anywhere.
Done.
That still happens up north.
Like the toilet paper scare around here.
We're just as Mississippi. You go out in a tornado on your quad and trek down and get yourself a beer at the bar in Pittsburgh. It's just you get on your quad when there's a snowstorm and go to the bar. The good snowstorms coming in, pull in the parking lot in a bar, and there's like 9 quads in the parking lot.
There's no stopping a good time.
No.
So I mean, but this was a pretty big life change for you coming down here. It was a pretty big step and a pretty big gamble. I mean, overall, are you happy? With the decision?
Oh yeah, I think both of us are quite happy. It does get it, rough. You miss food, you miss friends, you miss certain things,
certain pizzas.
Yeah, it's a little rough. My parents are getting older and more grouchy, miserable. My dad's like, your typical TV old man. But yeah, I think it's been a great experience. It's been a learning experience. When I was hired here, I was hired as a tech. I wasn't, hired as, in the company we do have, guys that are classified as, engineers, and they do get paid a little more than a tech would get paid. But they made me a pretty nice offer to move down here. Compensation was good. They helped out with the move and everything like that. And I was active and quickly found a place to live. I only lived in a hotel for, I don't know, 7 days, 10 days or something until I actually moved into this place here. And the wife finished up work there. And we literally moved down here with 3 carloads of stuff, like equipment that I needed. Is I have some equipment in storage still up in Pennsylvania if I need it, but for the most part I sold everything I had and moved here with a very bare minimums. Moved into the apartment. I bought all new furniture, everything just brand new, and said, hey, we're going for it. And it was easier and cheaper than moving it.
Sure.
Nice. I was going to ask you something about up there. Well, I mean, how often do you guys get to visit?
We've been home once.
Oh,
wow. And you said 3 years. You've been here 3 years.
Yes.
I don't know why I said it a year earlier, because I mean, shit, last year was 2020. What am I thinking? Yeah, it just seems to have flown by.
I've been here a whole year, like out of work.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to get to that too. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But so 3 years, you went back one time.
Yeah, once. My dad, he's doing pretty good now, but my dad does have lung cancer, and I should probably stop smoking because of that. But you live your life and you choose your own battles and things like that. And we went home because he actually, prior to what he has now, is he's battling lung cancer. He had esophageal cancer. Now, what they had to do is they removed his entire stomach and fashioned a new esophagus to stomach out of his stomach. So he has a smaller stomach, and they took the stomach tissue and made him a complete new digestive tract from his throat and replaced his esophagus with his
wow.
stomach.
Never even heard of that before, man. That's insane.
Yeah, medicine's pretty wild in Pittsburgh, and yeah, we kind of didn't know they could do that either. But he recovered from that, and his final tests were coming in, and that's when we found out that he had lung cancer, and it's somewhere that was kind of like close to his esophagus, and it kind of I guess spread.
Mm.
So he's actually just completed his radiation, and I think he started chemo yesterday, or he had his appointment for chemo doctor yesterday, and he starts chemo next Monday, something like that. Ooh, cool breeze. I felt a breeze. I'm like, woo.
Yeah, I get tickled around here when there's a breeze for sure.
I definitely wish the best for him, man. Hope everything
Absolutely.
goes straight with him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess Sczerba men are kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. We're stubborn. My grandfather passed away just before we had moved here. My grandfather passed away about 4 years ago. Pap Sczerba. He was like 98, man. And in like 98, he was still like starting bar fights at the VFW. He's like, I fought in World War II. You didn't, That's just kind of how he was.
Tough old fella.
All right. So a little over a year ago, they decided to shut down the entertainment and moved you to IT. And
Yeah,
I
I mean,
remember your posts, and I remember you putting it up, and it was just, even though you didn't necessarily, I don't know, you may have said this, but it seemed like it was this just like, flat tire bummer kind of feeling. So, well, what was the feeling around that? And then how did all that, go?
well, I mean, it wasn't, they just, shut down entertainment. They shut down the entire casino. They shut
Yeah.
down, the entire world on us.
Yeah.
And, it was change for everybody and chaos. But, what I'm looking at, we shut down. The last band to play was May 17th.
Okay. It was that
And
late. Okay. I didn't realize. Okay.
yeah, it was, no, not May. It was March 17th.
Okay.
The last band to play was March 17th. And then
Was that
state,
when did we go? When did we see you there? Was that somewhere in February, March?
yeah,
Generally?
somewhere February. Yeah, somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. It was pretty close then.
So that was a Saturday night, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law were actually here in town. They had flown from Pittsburgh to come visit, and we went away. We were at the coast. We were actually down in Biloxi, partying up, having a good time. And we're staying at a casino there, and they're going, hey, they're closing the casino tomorrow. If you were planning to stay another day, you know, we're like, oh, okay. So, came back to Jackson, but I was on vacation when everything happened. And I had planned vacation, for that week, and we shut down as a casino on Tuesday. And I did not plan to go back to work. I might have said I would be in Thursday, but I knew I probably wasn't going in Thursday. I was going to go in Friday when we had a band. So it would have been, the 16th. It'd been like the 23rd. So yeah, we shut down like the 20th or something like that. And man, it was rough. I was like, okay, at that time, it was what it was. Everybody's, this is going to happen or whatever. And it was just whatever was going to happen. At that time, it really didn't kind of set in the fact that, I really just took this huge promotion like February 1st. If February 1st, I had been running everything and booking everything for Tunica. I've been acting as the manager. They finally gave me the money and the title,
Mhm.
February 1st. And I'm like, yes, it's like, hey, we did it. And, this is great. And, take that vacation and then the world shuts down. And, um, you know, they, they, they did, they did pay us for like 2 weeks. And then that was like to April 1st. And at that time, nobody still knew what was going on. Pretty much everything was shut down except for grocery stores and gas stations at that time. And I'm just sitting here on this porch, waiting for something. And I guess it was I was out in like the AGM called, and I really had thought they were going to be like, hey, we're you know gonna start things back and things going to become normal. I'm like, okay. And she's like, I have this job for you, looking at your resume on file with us, and it says, IT work and gone to school for IT work. And I'm like, okay. So they offered me an IT job, and this is like, I don't know, about first week or second week of July or something like that. And I started back a week or so later, and it was just like the entire process to get where we're at Friday night. Like, like I want to like knock on every piece of wood I could find here right now with, Friday night coming up, that, it's just like, I don't wake up and, this still isn't happening, because it's been a long, rough time. I mean,
Sure.
I worked in entertainment and pizza, and radio, and you guys heard what I've done over the career. I've always worked nights. Well, this whole IT thing is like, yeah, you work like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, how am I gonna do that, man? I'm like, I can't get up at 7 o'clock.
That's a
Screw
whole
my schedule up.
lifestyle,
Yeah, that's a
whole
lifestyle
lifestyle change.
change.
So, and I mean, it worked out, and I think I did a pretty good job, and people really enjoyed me being in IT, because I was efficient, immediately responsive, and always got things done. And kind of did things that, a lot of people will do jobs, and they do whatever's on the job description. Or if you're a ticketed kind of job, like you do whatever the ticket says, like you're working a factory or whatever, or working a restaurant as a chef. You pull the ticket off, you make what it says, and then you
Yeah.
wait for your next order. I'm no, I don't operate that way. I'm the guy that walks around going, that's broke, this is broke, how do we fix this? Somebody, and that's just how I've always been with anything I do. And I guess that worked well for IT.
Yeah.
They were thoroughly enjoyed that I was always looking for something that needed improvement, needed fixed, or was about to break.
And just you mentioning, about the opening weekend this weekend, we to keep in mind, we've got a couple other podcasts coming out the next few weeks. So this one probably won't air for what, 2 weeks?
That's
Three.
right. That's right. That's right.
If there's anything else you want to throw out, or anything else you want to say before we get off, period, about anything, plug some other things, something else you're doing besides what you're doing with the
Well, definitely the Everclear
casino,
show.
anything,
Yeah, I mean, we have the Everclear show coming up Sunday, May 30th. There definitely, most likely, will be other shows added to our outdoor calendar probably this year. We are going to do, normally we're just Fridays and Saturdays, but 4th of July falls on a Sunday. So we're going to bring Dr. Czar in for a Sunday show on
Nice.
the on 4th of July, because people will have at work holiday on Monday. So a
Sure.
little bit of extra entertainment there. I don't know. I don't have anything to plug other than that. I mean, you can come any weekend and see a great band in our room at Ameristar. At the Bottleneck Blues Bar, I think any weekend, any music lover will be pleasantly surprised with who's entertaining them on stage.
I
Heck
back
yeah.
that up. I saw the lineup that you released here a few weeks ago. So I agree. There's something good for anybody to see any given weekend.
Some other tribute type acts over the summer. I forget the guy's name. You guys might know him. He's living outside of Dallas, but he's actually from Jackson. He's does a Kenny Chesney act, Barefoot Nation.
Hmm.
We,
I don't think I've heard of that.
Yeah, me neither.
yeah, he does a complete Kenny Chesney show. We have him coming in. Walk This Way out of Dallas. They are an Aerosmith tribute act.
Wow.
We have them coming in for a show I made. That's a free show also. Also from, I think, Dallas Fort Worth area also is Def Legend, the Def Leppard tribute act.
Nice.
Those guys are going to come in for a free show, I think, first week of August maybe. But really, until we get going, I'm going to do some tributes and things like this throughout the summer. And they're all going to be just free shows. Come up and enjoy the music.
Nice.
Now we will most likely go back to these being, these more premium acts. Eventually will become ticketed shows, but they're reasonable shows. They're $10 or something. But again, being a buyer, at the end of the day, you have to make the room break even. So sometimes when you hire an act with a larger price tag, you do need that cover charge to offset, the actual cost of the talent.
I mean, $10 is nothing to go see a quality show, though, man. I mean,
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, especially when you go out and, I mean, people go to concerts. I mean, the concert tickets are outrageous these days.
insane. Yeah.
Depending on who your favorite band is, it's like, I wanted to go see Peter Gabriel on the last tour, and I didn't want to be in peanut heaven. And I'm like looking, and tickets are like $700
Ooh,
for like
man.
lower bowl tickets. I'm like, wow.
That's like Eagles type numbers. That it'd be great, but man, pay a lot of stuff for that kind of money.
Well, I mean, the word through the industry is that this Genesis tour is still going to happen.
Oh, really?
And it's going to be, stadiums and floor seats to Genesis are going to, from what I understand, they're going to be like $500.
Wow.
$200 for, first section. And then, your peanut heaven up top seats are going to be somewhere in the, $100 to $150 range.
I've never heard it called that. Peanut heaven. I love it.
Peanut. You never heard peanut heaven?
I've heard the nosebleeds.
Nosebleeds is what.
Nosebleeds. I guess it might be a Pittsburgh terminology.
Peanut heaven. Love it.
Pittsburgh terminology. You know what a jagoff is?
No.
It's like a polite way to call somebody an asshole.
Oh. Yeah.
Don't be a jagoff. And that is and so on and that. It's just and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about our ways and our slang terms? What's
like you want to? That's one.
No, I guess I just
y'all. I say y'all all the time. Y'all.
Yeah, we say yins.
Yins.
How yins?
Yins.
How yins?
How yins?
Why? Y-I-N-Z. Yins. That yins is you all, you guys,
Yins.
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 And they call the most Pittsburgh people yinsers.
Oh, wow. We're definitely a lot slower talking. Y'all
Yeah,
want to come see the Duke's country this weekend? Y'all?
Yeah. Bring Yins on in here. And see it.
Just don't be a jackal.
Yeah, we end up, talking like the Micro Machine, man.
Yeah. Oh,
Man, it was a blast, brother. I sure do appreciate it.
I appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys soon.
all right. Sounds great, man. Thank you so much.
Take care, man.